Hello, YouTubers. Welcome to Tim Gonin Reads His Blogs. Today we have The Unexplained, a Biblical Perspective. Number 1. Mermaids and Bigfoot. After its kind, so the Bible says. What is a mermaid? A kind of fish can only produce in kind. So a mermaid must be either a fish or a person. As far as science knows, anything else beyond that is scientific theory or an idea, or basically in most basic terms of mythology, a myth, a legend. Bigfoot is in the same boat, a person or an ape. Bigfoot on film shows a person's gait, not an ape, a Neanderthal. Too hairy according to the footage. Neanderthals, according to the book, the creation explanation, are devolved humans. The soul of so-called hybrid is not the question here. Even if it were the offspring of a supernatural being, all things that breathe, have blood, have the spark of life of God, nephesh in Hebrew. The fate of animal souls versus human souls is not known. From King Solomon in the Kohelet, I think the writings of the philosopher in the Bible. But as an animal can't transgress willingly the laws of Torah, having no knowledge of good or evil, they cannot face judgment. So basically, when they've found what appears to be proto-humans around a campfire, what you're really looking at is people who have been eating apes. Proto-humans are actually ape bones, and monkeys, chimpanzees are still eaten in Africa today. So there's no kind of a creature that's one sort of creature or half another. Everything produces after its kind as far as science is concerned. The theory is that there's the ability of animals to cross that barrier from one kind to another, but this is more of a legendary mythological idea that exists in science today that is surrounded by lots of scientific jargon, but at its heart it's just a myth. There's no proof that one kind of animal can become another. Anyway, on to number 2 of The Unexplained. This is, of course, a TV show. UFOs. It should be pretty clear by now that to be able to support life, a planet needs a very special set of qualities. Certain temperature, oxygen, the right amount of gravity, and protection from meteors, comets, water, sustained geological stability, to name a few. The question is, by chance, what would it take for all of these things to occur? If chance cannot produce these things, then life on other planets could only be produced by God. The Bible tells us that the stars will fall from the sky at the end of days. Would God create other beings on other planets only to be destroyed as a consequence of our actions on our planet? Of course not. That's ridiculous. This is completely not how the Bible works. So that's kind of a cool point, actually. This is from 2014. There's no possibility of biological life in this galaxy or universe by chance. Pretty clear. Just the sun and the moon, the same size in the sky. It's not something that's going to happen by chance. God is screaming at us to recognize that this world is a miracle. And if you look at Venus, so basically the evil twin sister of Earth, God has shown what a planet will look like if he doesn't take care of it. All right, so God has put us in this perfect position, and science has long recognized that. Anyway, moving on. Vampires or werewolves. Werewolves must either be canine or human. Genetic splicing won't work Hollywood style, according to the Bible. However, you should be aware that eating splices DNA. After a fashion, we are what we eat. Thus, we take on the characteristics of our food to a certain extent. Vampires, I have little doubt these beings are folklore-style representations of fallen angels. In other words, they have the supernatural abilities of a being that's not inhibited by the laws of physics. Vampires and werewolves. Number 3. Werewolves must either be canine or human. Genetic. Oh, sorry, just did that one. Let's move on. Number 4. Elves, gnomes, trolls, etc. Elves equals sylvan equals forest. That is to say, Elves comes from the word sylvan. Forest folk. All these kinds of beings are the collective consciousness way of dealing with the guilt of having violently massacred indigenous forest-dwelling people groups as a result of wave migrations throughout ancient history, I am sure. Witches, adherents of the ancient mystery religions. Throughout the Dark Ages, Jewish people were persecuted for heresy and made to wear clothes and hats of classic witch attire. Much later in the 20th century, Wiccans claimed to have been the victims of this persecution. Witches in the Middle Ages didn't exist as Hollywood portrays them. They were adherents of the mystery religions. Paganism, in other words, that was popular throughout history until Christianity became dominant in Europe and the West. And when I say Christianity, I mean Christianity. We're talking about paganized Christianity with worship of statues and praying to pictures of saints. It's just superimposed paganism right there, but they didn't want competition, I guess. Ghosts, number 6. Souls don't stay on earth or come back without a body in the Bible. As far as I'm aware, ghosts are impersonated by evil spirits. However, this is a familiar spirit, so that's why God says not to speak to the dead, because you're not speaking to a dead person, you're talking to a fallen angel, which will lie and deceive. Zombies. See my earlier post. Basically, we become zombies when we subscribe to any kind of mob mentality, as it says in the Torah, the laws in Exodus. Don't follow after a mob to do something, because there's kind of something on it. Like, I don't know, like something spiritual. You kind of go along with things, and then afterwards they think, what do we do that for? The Bible warns us not to join mobs. Nazi Germany is an example of a nation turned zombie. The Unexplained, number 2, biblical perspective. The human machine is at once beautifully simple and incredibly complex. On the one hand, we are simply mind, body, and I believe spirit. But on the other hand, we are a complex combination of autonomous, self-learning, highly adaptive central control unit connected to a 4-part sensory apparatus and a central nervous system, which in turn connects to a semi-self-repairing frame and muscle organ matrix, which operates the movement of the body on command. Command of what? Command of no one knows, but I believe the spirit. We are not operated remotely, nor can we operate anything remotely. The world we see, hear, and feel is in fact just an interpretation of our extra-personal space. According to the data transmitted by our brain through the sensory apparatus, an interpretation designed, I suppose, to help us survive, multiply, and successfully populate the planet. Does the data received and interpreted by our brain reflect the true, complete, and total nature of the absolute space we inhabit in absolute terms? Probably not. We can't ever know, really, can we? We have some little machines, eyes, ears, and the rest of it that sends signals to our brain that interprets it. We don't live outside our body. We don't directly interact with the outside world. It's secondhand. It's even upside down, I think, according to the eyes that spun around. So you're not directly interacting with the outside world. And of course, insects and other creatures interpret it differently according to their sensory apparatus, which is designed to help them survive once again. So, food for thought. There is another sense needed for that, and that sense, I believe, is faith. Through faith, we might believe the Bible and come to know the Spirit God has placed inside us and the world of the unseen, as Shaul of Tarshish calls it in the Brit Hadesha, from which all things seen come. In other words, the unseen world is like a frame, solid frame. It's immortal, it can't perish, upon which this seen world has been placed, and out of which it came. This world is, obviously, it can be manipulated, it can decay. The unseen world is not like that. Alright, anyway, moving on. Without knowledge of this unseen world, with its spiritual foundations of the physical realm, angels, and God himself, how can we ever hope to fully understand this world? Our suppositions of both natural and supernatural phenomena will always be incomplete, and I'm not encouraging you to interact with the supernatural world unless you're directly interacting with God, the Spirit of God. 1. Teleportation. So that, I guess, was my introduction to this one. The Bible seems to have a case of this, where in the New Testament the apostle visits the Ethiopian trying to decipher the meaning of the book of Isaiah. But it is indeed a case of then if it is indeed a case of teleportation, then it is by the power of God, who has unlimited power and not the power of the human machine. So can you make a human teleportation machine that moves through the world of the unseen, the spiritual world, and therefore can come out at any point in the physical world, obviously not without supernatural intervention. Psionic powers. I have supposed in my introductory preamble that human power is strictly limited to the confines of the human body unless faith is applied. The human machine is capable of generating only so much power, and all of that is mechanical. We might suppose Samson's strength is that of angels, invisible to the human eye in ordinary circumstances, or that the Spirit of God possessed him momentarily. We have no mechanism to project energy, nor is there any known energy that can move things invisibly, except magnetism, gravity, and the wind. However, Yeshua states famously in the Britadisha that faith can move mountains. How? Words. Say to this mountain, get up and move into the sea, and it will. We are made in God's image, who brought our universe into being through his words. I don't think the words themselves will move the mountain, but rather God or his angels acting on behalf of our belief and faith. Or any other mechanism God chooses to use, right? You don't know. We don't know. But God will do it if we have faith. This cooperative mechanism, I believe, also works to perform other miracles such as the resurrection of the dead, miracle healings, and casting out of demonic beings. In other words, this is God doing it. We ask God to do it, and he will do it if we ask in faith. Telepathy. With no transmission mechanism aside from our voices, this could never happen in the natural realm. However, I fully believe through a prayer request to God in Yeshua's name, God could carry a message from one person to another, no matter how remote. The person would get an inexplicable feeling that they should perhaps contact someone or go somewhere, depending on what message was originally sent. And we're talking about the power of prayer here, not something that comes out of human beings. So basically, human beings are confined within our bodies. Our spirit is within our body. Our spirit can't leave our bodies while we're alive to go and flip a light switch or something. Okay. So psionic power, therefore, can never come into being. Might be some technologies at some point in the future people can invent to do this sort of thing if, technology goes on long enough, but just with the natural human power, I don't think so. Anyway, that's it for this time.